what are some things you think Spencer has done better with 5 games under his belt that he's getting better at, that you're seeing with his experience?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, with more experience, the game starts to slow down. I think his decision making, for the most part, has been really good. Done a good job taking care of the ball. And there's a lot of areas he needs to improve and continue to work at, and we do it every day. But from a process standpoint, like I've said many times, his process has been so good, and he is playing better and better.
When it comes to like avoiding sacks and like negative plays in that way, what has he done well in that department?
I think number one is athleticism showing up. So, like I've said, the 4.95 or whatever it is on paper is not what he plays to, and he's made some big plays, some explosive plays for us with his feet, and that's been a big part of it. He's done a good job with his hot, and sight awareness when protection breaks down and where we need to get the ball out when we get forced into hots, and I think he's done a good job of feeling the rush and getting rid of the ball.
You referenced references earlier this season, but like having been with Kellen for so long, how do you notice him kind of adjusting his offenses as the season progresses, either what his personnel does well or breaking his own tendencies or whatever?
Yeah, I think, in the time I've been with Kellen, when you look at that time span, we're always evolving, we're always changing, and we're always trying to fit our personnel. It's not about plays, it's about players. So how do we get the guys that can change the game in the best position to change the game in a positive way for us?
Sack evasion in general, like when you have someone just coming straight at you, you got to make them miss. Is that something that you coach? Is there footwork that you teach in that situation, or is a lot of it just okay?
No, we drill. We spend a lot of time and give Scotty Tolzien a lot of credit. Scotty does a great job with the guys, working the drills, and you see him every day, doing the different pocket movement and those type of things. Obviously, it's as we stay, at the position, you want guys that are instinctual players that feel it, because the guys that feel it can play faster. You can drill it, but it only helps to a certain extent, and then the player's instincts have to take over when you get in the heat of the battle.
How do you feel about the evolution of Kendre and Alvin rotating, complementing one another?
It's been good. Obviously, it's given us a little punch to our run game. I think I mentioned this a few weeks ago. It reminds me a little bit of when we had Zeke and Tony Pollard. One guy a little bit more of a bigger thumper type downhill guy, the other guy more of a slasher, speed and space guy. They're both such unique styles in the way they play. I think it's a good change up for us.
Was that sort of intended even before the game that, not that you predicted that you'd be protecting a lead in the fourth quarter, but that would be a role for Kendre Miller, sort of that closer run out the clock role, or was that partly because of Alvin's availability?
Well, I think a little bit of both. Obviously, they're both really good runners, and they both can do things well. And, sometimes it's one guy's feeling fresher than the other. Maybe a guy's had a lot of carries or got banged up a little bit, and it's like, hey, go ahead, let's put the other guy in because he's fresher and feeling it better. Or some guys are, sometimes the guy's getting hot, and you just feel him. It's like, hey, let's keep feeding him.
In any case, there's a lot of trust that obviously I assume goes in with that, and is that an illustration of the trust that Kendre Miller has earned sort of with you guys?
Sure, I think, since we've gotten here, Kendre's done a good job. Obviously, I think he's got a lot of areas he can improve in, but if you look at the way he's played the last few weeks, his trend line, is going in a great direction.
I think the kind of common refrain for us when we're talking about offensive linemen is if you're not talking about him doing a pretty good job. Does that apply with Kellen Banks? Like when you're studying it more closely than we are, do you think he's...
I think there's a lot to say. I say it's been quite quiet over there on that side, and that's a good thing, when you talk about O-linemen. Like I said before, his maturity, his ability to invest in his process week in and week out, really been pleased with where he's at this point of the season and where I think he'll continue to go.
I know it's been discussed a lot already, but that 87-yarder to Rashid Shaheed, getting the top off of the defense finally, what does that do for the offense going forward?
Well, obviously, like I've said, we're always looking for ways to generate explosive plays, and we've got to do a better job. We're not generating nearly enough explosives week in and week out. We've got to become more consistent in that to become the type of offense we want. But for us to get that opportunity to see Sheed run the route the way he ran it, to see Spence make the throw. You watch the protection up front. You watch the little things that maybe people don't see. It's Alvin coming off the fake and just getting a little chip that maybe buys Spence a little bit more time. There's a lot of things that play into that just, for our guys goes to show that if we get all 11 guys, contributing, we're gonna have opportunity to do some really special things.
For your purposes, obviously, it's different than the stat sheet, but when you do kind of go for a shot play and it results in a pass interference, do you count that as kind of an explosive
You
play?
do. You got to count them because when you put people in those type of situations because let's be honest, these defensive guys, they also know when they get torched, they're going to try and create a pass interference because they'd rather give up a spot foul than to give up an 80-yard touchdown. Now, if the ball's in the end zone or something like it may be a little bit different, but yes, that's part. It's not going to show up in an NFL statistic, but for us, we do. We calculate those, and okay, well, hey, we had 8 explosives, and we also had 2 that were not counted that will, in our mind, are 2 more explosive we generated.
For players in Taysom and Foster's situation, how long does it typically take, or how many practices before they could have their full complement of what they normally do on offense? Is there a big factor in what slows or speeds up that timeline?
Yeah, those guys are in week 6 of training camp right now, or day 6 of training camp? No, I don't know that you can put that specifically on a certain time frame for all players. I don't think you can generalize that. Excuse me. I think it's specific to the player. I'll say this about those 2 guys, and the guys in our locker room know if you watch the way those guys worked all off season through training camp when the other guys were practicing, the time that they put in their rehab to prepare themselves for this opportunity. I think everybody in the building feels really good about the work that those guys put in to put themselves in a position to play quickly once they were cleared. So obviously to get those 2 guys back, I think helps us, and we're excited to have them.
Taysom had said something last week. He was like, remember, we've only had 3 practices together as players and coaching staff. How much does that change things? Obviously you've gotten to know them over the past off season or whatever, but as a player on the field, you really haven't had that time.
Well, it's, especially when you're a new staff, because you can watch tape and you say, okay, this player is this, and watching the tape, and obviously Taysom's got a long track record, so does Foster, of tape. So, but until you get them and they actually are running plays in the system, you might, have some ideas. That doesn't work quite the way we want it to work. Hey, this is working really well. Can we build off of this? So it, kind of allows us to go down different paths.
I was going to add, related to that, we've seen Taysom in this specific role quite a lot, and kind of similar to what we've seen in the past out of him. But so there's the built-in reps with the guys explained it before, but when you're doing that for the first time in week 5, you haven't been able to do it in training camp. Do you have to, just as a team, even bust the rust off of that sort of?
Sure. There's, maybe not for the players. There's a little bit of angst as a coach because sometimes you get a rep or 2 at practice. But let's be honest, this time of year, the amount of reps you're getting live at full speed is not. It's not a great number of reps because just where you are in this point of the year. So a lot of walkthroughs and things like that. So you're getting 1 or 2 reps at something, and then you're calling it to be run on a Sunday, and you need it to work. So there's a little bit of a okay, here we go. It's what you'd like to have joint practices for, and preseason games and things like that.
Along those same lines, what's it like, I guess you're working on your second one now, crafting a game plan when you have Taysom compared to when you don't have one guy who can be moved around in so many ways?
It's a fun challenge because obviously you're looking at ways to not make everything new, but yet you're looking at ways to implement somebody into a game plan that can help you win in many different ways. So it's been fun. It's gives you a little chance to be creative on some things that we haven't been able to do, but you also can't get away from what you do on offense and lose focus on the system.
Really good to see the Mike Vrabel defense on Sunday.
Yeah, that's a good, fundamentally stout physical defense, and you look at their numbers, they verify it. They're very stout against the run. They're physical. Haven't been with Milton last year, obviously, up front, know what type of player he is. They do a good job. The 2 corners in the back end do a really good job. They got 2 young safeties that are good players. So they're going to, line up and they're going to come at you. And that's the way Mike's, always been. They're physical. They're going to be really, really sound. You're not going to get a lot of free plays. Execution's going to be at a premium.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.